Going on, Jets Nation, and welcome back to the Flight 5. You are live here with the crew. Bill, to my left, is the first one now. To the left, what's up, brother?
What's going on, Nick? Oh, I'm first.
Yeah, you're first now. You cut us off.
Well, if you ain't last, you're first.
That's right. Yeah, well, no, not really. You could be third.
That's a good point.
Or second.
Yeah, that's true.
What's up, Wes?
Hey, Wes, you're fired. So now Bill is first.
Just like all of the listeners at home to sit back, relax, catch your contact, sip your cognac while we all wash this money in a laundromat. That's it. That's all I want you to do.
Damn.
Frank, that's all he wants. Nice haircut, Frank, by the way.
You like it, don't you?
What's the rule with the haircut? What did you say was going on?
I'm not cutting my hair until Mark Sanchez gets cut. All right? That's the rule.
So
I want to give a shout out to that boy, that kid era, smack whack rappers.
Yes.
If you see him, smack him. That's
Why?
it.
You calling him whack?
Yeah, there's a lot of whack rappers out there.
Throw a little powder on your hands first before I smack.
That's true.
You know?
Yep.
Well,
like strong.
That's right.
Like I said, you guys are listening to Flight 5 Live. Give us a shout, as always, 914-595-4871. Skype us, ZDalza if you're watching on onejetatime.com. Turn on thejets.com and thejetpress.com. They threw us up there today. We are still doing a little maintenance on the website, but it should be up around, hopefully, beginning of next week or this week coming up. And, of course, on zenlive.tv if you guys are. Hit us up in the chat on the Twitter right there at 5 and Live. And, call us. We want to hear from you. But we will do the official wrap-up of the NFL Combine show here. We're going to have Conor of the Newark Star-Ledger calling in around 7:20, so we'll kind of let him wrap it up, too, as well, because he was out in Indy for the Combine, so he had a first-hand look at what was going on at Indy.
Do they get invited out there, or they just show up?
No, I'm sure it's kind of like press credentials.
Media.
Players who don't get invited out. Only I think it's the top 300 players get invited out to the super combine that's at the NFL. But they do other ones, smaller ones,
regional combines, stuff like that.
They're going to do a regional one that they did last year at the Jets practice facility in Florham Park. I believe they're going to be doing that again.
Wait, what do you? I don't. Wait,
for
so
those who aren't invited but still
want to cover the event at certain facilities. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, makes sense.
We'll also get into later on a little bit of breaking news that we broke on the Twitter before about Brady Quinn and the Jets. I'm sure you guys were reading all day on the Twitter again about the Jets' current quarterback situation and a little bit of a by committee or competition that they're putting together.
You want to call that
I don't know
a
if you want to call it a competition, but the rumors are Brady Quinn and David Garrard and so on. So we'll get into that a little later about the quarterbacks.
Or a new 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
start a new chain.
But let's get right back. Let's get right into the NFL Combine, guys, and let's go into who were the winners, and we'll get into also the losers of the Combine. And Wes, I'm going to start with you. Kind of give us, bring us into this. Who was your winner of the NFL Combine 2013?
Yeah, I think like most football fans out there, we all love the Combine just because we can kind of make up our own opinions and have a little bit of our own say. No one can really tell us that we're right or wrong. I think that's what one of the great parts of being fun is. So it's kind of tough to gauge who was a real winner and who was a real loser. There is one concrete winner from that, and that is the San Francisco 49ers, who pulled off the trade, which will happen once the new league year starts, to trade away Alex Smith, and they got the 34th overall selection, the first pick in the second round. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Or the second pick in the second round?
Yeah.
Right. So they got that, and that was something that's concrete. They have 15 picks in the NFL draft, 4 in the top 60, something like that. They have 32, 34, 61 maybe. I don't know. I'm losing.
A ton of picks.
31 and 34.
I think what they traded for was 37. They're kind of estimating around.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the big winners of that. I mean, it's the best retooling, and you kind of see what they're doing with the Patriots over the last few years of stockpiling picks, and whether they hold on to them or trade them or whatever. It's a great bargaining chip to have.
How about you, Frank? Who's your winner of the draft?
My winner of this,
Combine.
The Combine, yeah. Well, he is going to be the winner for a team come draft day. Le'Veon Bell. I call him Arian Foster 2.0. That's my dude. He's a Spartan. I think he's going to be great. I really like him. What's interesting is Bucky Brooks from NFL.com, he wrote a story saying that Le'Veon Bell is actually the best running back in the 2013 NFL draft, and it's not even close. You know what? I almost agree with him. I still like Lacey better, but I love Le'Veon Bell. And the one thing Le'Veon Bell did during this combine that really impressed me, don't laugh, it's the 3-cone drill. Now, let me explain. At 6'1", 230 pounds, to be ranked third in the 3-cone drill, at that size tells me this guy is extremely quick for his size. If you go back now last year, the top 3 in the 3-cone drill, and that's the one NFL Combine event, if you want to call it, or a drill, excuse me, that I value more than anything for running backs. Last year, Rainey, Doug Martin, LaMichael James were top 3. 2011, Roy Halou was second, Kendall Hunter was third, Ridley was fourth, LaShore was sixth. Go to 2008, Ray Rice was 1, Jamal Charles 3, Matt Forte 5. You know, Leon Washington, my boy, was top 5 also, as was Bradshaw. It's the drill, the cone drill. I know it sounds a little weird, but if you go back and you look at running backs and who does best at the cone drills, they end up doing pretty well. I mean, we were looking at them before, and it's very weird, but that's not the only reason I like Le'Veon Bell. I love everything about the kid. I think he's very smart, and he just loves to play football. It was interesting because the team did ask him if he liked women. So,
that was going around a lot.
I heard he didn't answer the question, but you know. Who knows?
He doesn't have to.
Good for him. He doesn't have to. Yeah.
Bill, what about you?
Speed in small spaces, right, Frank?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's what running backs need to do best. Alfred Morris was 7th. I mean, Vic Ballard 8th. So I mean, it shows something.
That's my boy.
David
Bill,
Wilson top 10. So yeah, it shows something.
Who impressed you the most?
For me, I looked at. I'm going with Tavon Austin. You know, he lived up to the hype. I like to say he surpassed the hype. You know, these guys coming like a Niles Davis kind of came out and he kind of like made a name for himself. Tavon Austin going into the combine, really, he was a football player. You know, that you hear good things, you hear big things expected from him, and he lives up to it. So that it's kind of nice to see. You know, running a 4.340. You know, he became really the star of the combine on Sunday, and everybody, you know, he pretty much cemented himself as that late first-round pick that I predicted him to be. So for me, Tavon Austin really took the cake.
You think he's the first receiver off the board, or you think Patterson is?
I think they're going to go for Patterson based on sheer size and skill, but Tavon Austin's going to be number 2. He could be number 1. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to take Ezekiel Ziggy Ansah. I know a lot of people were talking about him as a fit here for the Jets. I know the Steelers apparently love him. A lot of people are saying that he's going to be the guy who can kind of negate the pistol offense, which a lot of teams are going to, because he is so freakishly athletic. You know, he can stand up, he can put his hand in the ground, but he ran the 6th fastest 40 time at 4.63 among defensive linemen, 2nd fastest among guys who are over 270 pounds. He's a big dude. His 10-yard split was 1.56 seconds, which is great. Shows a ton of explosiveness off the ball. 34.5-inch vertical jump. This guy is coming in hot, and he's kind of talked about as a Jason Pierre-Paul guy because he doesn't have much experience. He's from Ghana, not much experience until he's played at BYU. I think it was not even until his sophomore year where he really started playing. So he bursted onto the scene, and now Mike Mayock and a ton of other scouts list him as the third best defensive end in the draft, as Jarvis Jones, Bjorn Warner. So this guy, it depends on the team and the need, but he's right up there in the top 15, 20 picks, and I think out of any defender, he helped himself the most out of the combine. But it's going to be very interesting to see how these defensive ends and outside linebackers fall and start going in the draft, and who's the first one, second one, and third one. But I think Ansah is up there at the top for sure.
Yeah.
But let's.
Did you forget you're hosting the show?
Yeah,
dude?
I forgot. I thought someone was going to rebuttal me. I was. You know what it was? I know Frank isn't a big fan of his, so I was setting it up for Frank to knock it out of the park.
Frank to do, right?
I know.
No,
right.
when I first started watching Ziggy, I wasn't a big fan, but as I started watching more film on him, I like him. I mean, I wouldn't put him as the third best, but I mean. He's big, he's fast, and if he plays fearless, he has a spot in the NFL most definitely.
Yeah, since you're talking about things you don't like and guys you don't like, who had the combine you most didn't like this year? Who kind of hurt themselves the most at the combine, Frank?
I wanted to see more from Derek Rogers. I really liked him coming into the combine. After seeing him go through drills, he dropped a ton of balls. I mean, a ton. He didn't look focused. That's the one thing I look for with these flashy receivers is, can you go to this combine and be ultra focused, catch almost every ball, concentrate on running drills as best you can. And he was dropping everything. Not only that, they expected him to run in the 4.4s. He ran in a 4.52, which isn't bad, but he was supposed to run in the 4.4s. That's what people were looking for.
$2 million, the 40 time.
It does,
sure,
man. Especially for a receiver that's supposed to be, a big play receiver. He's projected to go in the late second, early third, mid third round. So, I expected more from Derek Rogers because I did like him out of Tennessee Tech, but he really didn't do it for me. So, I think some teams are going to question whether they want, to draft someone that could, that people are comparing him to as being, possibly a guy who has a lot of drop issues and concentration issues, and he does have character problems too. So, all in all, it's going to be he's going to be a risk for teams, and that just solidified that.
How about you, Wes?
It's a fairly obvious choice, but my reasoning's a little different from what the obviously glaring points are. It's Manti Te'o, not because of the slow 40 time. I think we've seen a lot of inside linebackers kind of come out that they show that they don't have to have an amazing 40 time to come out and be impressive in the NFL. A couple guys just come to mind. Vontez Burfict, had a bad kind of reputation, goes out undrafted.
That's Nick's boy right there. Nick was loving him.
In tackles, I believe, top rookie tackler or whatever. James Laurinaitis ran above 4.8 40.
Really?
Who else? Ray Malaluga and as well Brandon Spikes. Those guys are all pretty serviceable starting NFL inside linebackers. So I don't think that's the problem. What hurt him, I think, was all the media surrounding him, and that's what worries me, especially with a team like the Jets. If they were to even look at him, is that there's already so much media attention around him, and it seems like ever since the Heisman Trophy, the Lene Kukua, the national championship game, all that stuff, you've seen how he's just kind of folded into himself. If you remember before, as he's going into the Heisman Trophy game, I remember watching this ESPN Notre Dame basketball game, and he's all over the court, flexing his muscles, screaming, going nuts, cheering everyone up, and he was literally like he's on top of the world. And to see him kind of contrast that now is just a complete 180, and you just see it on his face that he just can't, he's not handling it well. And I can't blame him for that, because I'm not sure if I could do that. Actually, I know I couldn't do that as well.
I do feel like the press conference where it was him and all the reporters, I felt he handled himself pretty well there. But again, it's kind of a, he was set up and he prepared for that a pretty long time. That one where it was just him in front of the media.
Right.
I thought he handled that really well, but
he didn't look like he was. He didn't look ready.
His confidence was like shaken to me. It looked like
neutered.
I kind of feel bad for him.
Term.
I really do.
I kind of thought that, but with all this going on, he would come into the combine and he would just be ready to go. I mean, he looked floppy. That's the word I would use for it. He did. He didn't look. He didn't look like he was ready.
He lost weight though. He lost a little bit.
He did, but it looks like he almost gained weight. He looked like, again, he didn't look like he was like toned. He looked like he was like, he didn't look like he was a linebacker. He really didn't. He looked like, he was I don't know, he was Drew from Jersey out there, give him a nice shout out. No. But no, he just didn't look that good to me. Even when he ran his 40, he looked so stiff. Like, I remember watching him run, at Notre Dame, and he looked fast and quick. He looked really slow. I don't know what I mean.
Well, it's like Mayock loves to say, he's a football player, not an athlete.
Good point.
Yes.
I mean, I think Te'o is going to be great.
He's not a track star, he's a football player. That's
and he's a Mike linebacker, with his hand on the ground running a 40. How's that going to compare to the NFL? It's a lot of read and react, a lot of instincts when you're playing that position, and Te'o is as smart as they come at that position, so unless it's a fake chick on the other line at the phone or something. But when it comes to football, the guy knows the game and his head is on straight. So I have no problem.
And nothing really shocked you. You knew he wasn't going to come in. He wasn't going to run fast. You know what I'm saying? It leads into like my guy, who I think is kind of who hurt himself the most at the combine, Demontre Moore. Like, everybody's expecting some big numbers out of him. They were expecting good things. You read any mock draft, he's going top 10, and then he comes out, runs 4.95 in the 40, and he benches 12 times for any kind of front seven defensive player. That kind of raises some eyebrows. So I think he really hurt himself in the combine, and kind of really took him out of that, what seemed to be another cemented role for him to go into the top 10. I think it took him out of there, and now he'll be fighting to be picked in the first round.
That's unbelievable.
It is crazy.
I'm a big Demontre Moore fan, and I still am. I'm not going to jump off the bandwagon because of a bad combine.
But that's an example of how that's the example of what the combine can do to you.
Yeah,
like,
it can.
When it's so like polar opposite from what's expected.
Sorry to cut you off. Do you know what was awesome watching John Harbaugh watch Manti Te'o's 40? He's standing there like with his pen. He's just like. He's like shaking his head as he's running, and then he says it. You could hear it. You could read his lips saying 483, like just shaking his head. He ran a 481, so he's doing his manual clock himself.
Yeah,
he's literally doing it from his seat. So it was interesting to see that.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody.
Yeah. Well, I had to wrap it up for the combine worst. I had to take a guy who, by no fault of his own, may have killed his stock, and that's Star Latulier, because he did not perform at the combine at all, and had. The echocardiogram that he had on the heart, on his heart, showed that he had a heart condition, and it was similar to Frank Anderson, I think, a couple years ago, where he was a top pick coming into the combine and wasn't drafted until the 4th round because of a heart problem. He wasn't allowed to take part in any of the workouts, had to see a specialist. He's on track to perform at his pro day on March 20th, but I mean a problem like that before he even start playing, he lost I think 10 pounds leading up to the combine. He was dehydrated, regular heartbeat. So Star Latulier, who was supposed to be a top 5 pick, maybe even the number 1 pick overall, is he going to fall out of the top 10, top 20, and is he going to even drafted? So by no fault of his own, I think he will have the most, unless it is like Bill said with Moore. I agree with the combine will take the biggest hit. He'll take the biggest hit not working out at the combine. So unless he comes and kills his pro day and he's completely healthy, the heart test comes back and he's fine, then he'll probably end up in the top 10, 15 again. But now if the heart problem does continue and they find something else, I hope not, obviously, but that could end up being a really bad drop for him.
Now they have the kid.
Nick, how much does it hurt having Sharif Floyd doing as well as he done?
Yeah, Sharif Floyd, Hankins from Ohio State.
They were 1-2 going against each other. Almost,
he might even be the third inside, interior lineman to go now. Like you said, Floyd is unbelievable. I think he's going to go in the top 5 to 10. And Jonathan Hankins had a great combine from Ohio State. So
how do you feel about these defensive tackles going top 5? I mean, if we look
I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. We look at if we look at Ndamukong and we look at McCoy, I mean, what have they really done for their teams? I mean, they really haven't changed the culture of even those defenses. I mean, they've been okay. I know it's tough for one guy to change the culture of a defense, but Ndamukong went 1, McCoy went 2. You have this guy Floyd going 1. Is that really worth it to get a D tackle 1?
What's funny is that you see all of these great guys who do have a huge impact on the team. These great D tackles. You're looking at the Haloti Inatas, the Vince Wilforks, the
Chris Jenkins when he was healthy too.
You're right.
Those guys, they're taken in the first round and the bottom half of the first round. You see how well those guys are doing, and then you look at NFL evaluators saying, well, if these guys are doing that well and they were selected in the bottom half of the draft, I'm going to take a chance on them and take them on my top pick. And if they really solidify and anchor that defense, then so be it. But
do you know what?
To your right,
do you know what the issue is too? I think the league is turning into more of a it's obviously a passing league. We're throwing the football now. Teams are throwing it 65 to even 70% of the time now. Of a defensive tackle, the value of them, if they can't get to the quarterback, is low. You're not running the ball as much. Teams aren't running the ball.
You're only going to be on the field for 1 or 2 downs. Anyway,
that's what I mean. So I mean, Ndamukong's a good pick because he can rack up. His rookie year racked up 10 sacks. Last year he had a bad year, but that I can see value. But getting a guy like Floyd, I mean, what's his? Can he actually get to the quarterback?
Get to the quarterback. I think he's the better. I think he is the better. I would take him over Star Latulier even if he was healthy without the heart condition. I think Sharif Floyd is going to be a great player. But I know exactly what you mean. The pick that the Eagles made last year, I remember
Fletcher Cox.
He's the same guy with an interior pass rusher like that, but he's not on the level I think that Sharif Floyd is. But
you need to be an elite pass rushing defensive tackle to go in the top 5 or 10, right?
I think Marcel Darius and the Bills.
Yeah, absolutely. But guys, we have Conor ORR giving us a shout now. He's calling. That's the Jets beat report. Does a great job for the Newark Star Ledger. We gave him a shout out last week on the show while he was in Indy covering the combine, but we're bringing him on tonight to kind of wrap up the combine, the week in Indy, and also talk about what's going on with some quarterback rumors, and obviously throw him through a little bit of a lightning round. But Conor, what's going on? How are you, bud?
Hey, I'm doing good. How's everybody doing over there?
All right.
Definitely can't complain.
Thanks for coming on.
Doing better than the Jets rumored quarterback competition, but that's for a little bit later. We want to have you kind of break down what you saw this week in Indy. Who were your winners and losers? We just went over yours. Who were maybe 1 or 2 guys of each that you saw that really stuck out to you?
Oh man, and just getting to meet a lot of the prospects and see some of the workouts. I mean, I was blown away by that Sheriff Floyd, the defensive tackle from Florida. I mean, that guy is just outrageous. I've never seen a big man move like that. And even like the coolest part was just to see, I wanted to go back on video and see how he did a lot of the positional drills. And I mean, he just looks like a linebacker, but at 320 pounds. I was joking around with a couple scouts, and I was saying, I don't even think there's any way he makes it to the Jets at 9 at this point. But, I really liked him. I thought he worked out well. You got to be impressed by, Deion Jordan and Barkevius Mingo, too. I mean, those guys are just, just the size of these guys now and just the way that they're able to move is just so impressive. And I think the one thing, if this draft is deep in anything, it's got to be pass rushers and defensive linemen. So that should make Rex happy.
Yeah, for sure. What about, is there someone who you saw that really kind of took a hit with their stock at the combine besides obviously the Manta Te'o? Is there anybody who really stuck out to you like that?
I wasn't totally blown away by Milner's workouts from Alabama. Like I watched him, and I know his 40 time was good. I wasn't totally impressed by him. I heard that a couple people, weren't really blown away by the quarterbacks on the field. Off the field, I think is a pretty smart group. Geno Smith is smart. Ryan Nassib is a really smart guy, and Glennon too. So, but yeah, I mean, outside of Manta, I mean, geez, that poor guy he can't catch a break with the 40 time and everything like that, and just having to deal with all that. But I mean, other than that, I really thought that a lot of people helped their stock. But again, I mean, I wasn't blown away by Milner. I kind of like that cornerback out of Florida State a little bit better, Xavier. I think he might be a little bit better of an option. So yeah, I mean, but I think it should be interesting. He was probably one guy that I wasn't completely wowed by.
Hey, Conor, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. You went to Cuse. Apparently, Ryan Nassib is on the Jets' radar. I just want to know your thoughts on him, being a fellow alum as yourself.
I promise there's no other connection there other than we graduated at the same time. But I did get a chance to catch up with him. I actually covered him when he was a redshirt freshman for the school newspaper when he was in a quarterback battle with Greg Paulus, which is kind of funny now thinking about it.
He was supposed to be the next the white Michael Jordan, they were saying. Out in,
exactly.
I was in Central New York in Hamilton, so I was all about Paulus.
Exactly. But I've seen him develop as a passer, and Marone's system offensively is great. It's a little bit of a it's kind of like a morning wigs West Coast on caffeine a little bit. It's just a little bit quicker. It's a little bit faster paced. And I think that Nassib, when him and I were talking about morning wigs offense, I mean, he loves it. He said, "This is kind of what I'm used to. The blocking schemes might be a little bit different, but all the concepts are the same." And when you talk to the scouts who kind of talked to him and kind of put him through the ringer, I mean, he's a smart kid. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to make his reads. It's just kind of what's going to translate. The Big East isn't exactly a gauntlet competition-wise, so we'll see where everything goes from there. But from all the early returns, I've heard a lot of nice things about him, and enough that he could definitely slip into the first round.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I was speaking with Bill about Nassib, and the first thing I said to him, Bill's like, "Oh, what's he like?" I go, "When this kid plays, it looks like he just drank 8 cups of coffee." I mean, he's jittery, he's throwing like crazy, and like he makes a lot of plays. So I mean,
progressing through reads
he does. He progresses through reads faster than anyone I've ever seen. It's ridiculous. I mean,
it's like a little bit of a Peyton Manning feel, just the way that he's kind of like frantic around the line of scrimmage. It's fun to watch.
It really is. It really is fun to watch. So who do you think? I mean, do you think the Jets are going to go after a quarterback in this draft, or what are your plans? I mean, what do you think the Jets' plans are on that?
Personally, I mean, I don't think it's going to be in the first round unless they really. I mean, I know that they had a formal sit down with Matt Barkley, so unless they were totally wowed by that, I really don't see them going that way. I think the draft is just too deep in pass rushers, and Idzik even saw last year in Seattle when he was coming out that if they probably just had one more guy to rush the passer, that would have pushed him to the next level. And with Rex in his ear, however much influence he kind of has at this point, I see them kind of going after one of those guys just because it's so deep and it kind of just fits the flow of the draft right now. And just because I think if you're going to wait until the second round, you're going to get a quarterback that probably isn't that much worse than one that you're going to get in the first round anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, Conor, I just have a question for you real quick here. You know, it seems like the Jets over the last couple of years, they have this kind of college recruiting approach to the draft. It seems like they really have a really keyed in on winning their region and winning that Mid-Atlantic region as far as getting good young talent. Over the last 3 years, you kind of see Kyle Wilson playing college ball or high school ball in New Jersey, and then Quentin Coples and Muhammad Wilkerson all kind of playing in that Mid-Atlantic through whether it's college or high school ball. Any local kids that you should see on the Jets' radar in the top couple rounds?
Well, before I say that, though, right, who'd they miss on? The most important person from that Mid-Atlantic region, right? You guys should all know that, right?
Ray Rice?
Victor Cruz, come on.
Of course.
From Tannenbaum's alma mater. But, I do think that there are a couple I really love the two Rutgers kids, Kashim Green, the outside linebacker, and Logan, the cornerback from Rutgers. I got a chance, just because of the Ledger, Rutgers is in our coverage area. I got a lot of time to spend with them up at the combine, and Green I really like just because he might be available a little bit later on, and he's perfect in that kind of hybrid where he's fast enough to track down some of those mobile quarterbacks, and he's strong enough to cover a tight end, those quicker tight ends. And I think that's a great asset to have. And then if Logan from Rutgers. You can't really fault him for doing what he's doing, which is he's with Revis's agents. He's down training with Revis and Revis's coaches. So I mean that's part of it. Revis's physical skills are on par with a lot of other cornerbacks, but what separates him is how he attacks things mentally. And to see that coming out of college has got to be a huge advantage for a kid like that. So you really got to like those two guys coming out.
What about Jawan Jameson? He was a guy who kind of got a little bit of a flack for kind of leaving early. Some people said he was a little too young to leave early, but he's kind of shown a little bit of kind of that scat back that's kind of been popular in the NFL. I mean, what do you think about him in later rounds? I'm not sure he'll get drafted. I think if he does, it'll be one of the later rounds, like you said. I got into a little bit of trouble. I said a couple of people made a Ray Rice comparison, and I was really kind of hesitant about that just because Ray Rice, the size is similar, but I think people forget Ray Rice ran close to a flat 4.4 at the combine, and I don't think Jameson was anywhere near that. But he's good. He's talented. I think he could have benefited from another year at Rutgers, like a lot of other people are saying. But like you said, I mean, you never know with these guys. Running backs especially, it's the most fickle position in the draft because a lot of teams are hesitant to draft them so high anymore because the talent level is so even across the board. So you never know. I mean, I think he could come through. He put that team on his back a lot of times this year, just kind of watching a little bit of his tape before I went out to Indy. So I mean, you never know. He seems like a nice kid from all accounts, too. So, if he's there, I mean, in the late rounds and the Jets still haven't taken him back, it wouldn't shock me to see him come around.
How about Revis, Conor? Did you come across anything out there, anything alarming, or how about a gut feeling? How do you think it's going to kind of pan out?
My gut feeling is that he'll be with the team at least until after the draft. And just kind of talking with some people, even out at the combine, I didn't really feel a sense of urgency from anybody to get anything done out there. And that's not in a bad way. That's just that Idzik really kind of had a plan going in. He was going to meet with the free agents, and that was kind of his thing. Those were the agents that he was going to deal with. And then he was kind of going to be, knuckles to the ground. He was going to be all combine, all college kids for the rest of the week. And, Woody flew out, but it really wasn't for Revis. It was just kind of, it's a new GM. He doesn't know him that well still, and he just kind of wanted to watch him work. I don't even think he was there for a whole day. Maybe he was there for 2 days. But so really, I mean, I didn't sense there was a huge sense of urgency to get this deal done. I mean, or even for them to really meet with Revis's people, just because he's under contract. He's rehabbing in a different time zone, so even though they get kind of weekly updates, they don't really know a whole lot. They haven't seen him do like ladder drills. They haven't seen him rehab, lift weights, anything like that. So until I think Idzik's pragmatic enough that we'll know when that's a focus, and he'll kind of make sure to pour 100% of his attention into that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's something that's going to happen sooner rather than later. It seems like it's going to drag on, and if there is a trade, it'd probably be for draft picks in 2014, which won't be the worst thing because of the quarterback class next year. But Conor, I know it's kind of a tricky question, and it's something that maybe you can't even tell from where you were, but did you notice that the Jets had any strong interest, whether they were meeting with at the Combine or after or before, with any players in particular, any maybe of the pass rushers like Deion Jordan and Jarvis Jones? Did you see kind of any of that really piqued the Jets' interest, or was it kind of business as usual for them just watching the whole thing?
It was kind of tough to tell as far as who was piquing their interest, but just in talking to a couple of the prospects, I mean, you got to feel that the Jets kind of really hammered home an interest in a lot of the guys that can succeed in a 3-4. Like Mingo and Jordan we're both kind of talking about how they sought a lot of interest from the 3-4 teams in the top 10, and obviously the Jets are one of those. But also, Ryan Nassib said he spent a lot of time with David Lee out there, the new quarterbacks coach, and got a chance to say hi to David out there too. And he seems like a guy that's not going to waste his time and mess around. So, those are the names that I heard specifically, because a lot of guys are kind of shy to admit that, or don't want to admit that they've met with a team, or they don't want to let a team secret out or anything like that. But those were kind of some of the names that I heard directly linked to the Jets. Now,
what about Geno Smith?
They can meet with 60 players, so it's really, for them, they don't want to tip a hand at all. So, I mean, and it could be, really what would be interesting to see is kind of the total breakdown. I mean, across the board, how many of the 60 were quarterbacks, which at the most, I think it would have been 5. How many are pass rushers? So, I mean, and until we kind of get a full read on that, then it's kind of tough to tell what position they're really zeroing in on.
Well, Conor, there's a lot of guys being talked about, defensive end, outside linebackers, those type of edge type of guys, quote unquote. And can you see the Jets? I know you kind of mentioned Deion Jordan, Jarvis Jones. Is that the best way to approach rebuilding this team, taking an outside guy for the third year in a row?
Well, I think what you need to do too is you kind of got to consider Copels was really kind of meant Copels and Wilkerson. They kind of like more and Rex even said specifically, like, he wants them to create pressure from the interior. Mm-hmm. So now what you're looking at is replacements for Calvin Pace and Brian Thomas, because right now you have your 2 middle linebacker spots solidified. You have Demario Davis and David Harris, but now that Pace and Brian Thomas are gone, now you're looking for those 2 outside linebackers, guys that can split out in zone coverage, but also guys that probably 2 out of the 3 downs are standing up or have their hand in the dirt rushing the passer. So I think that's more what it is. It's more outside linebackers than defensive end at this point, because he really has the 2 interior presence guys that he wants. And I know that they have a lot of interest in bringing DeVito back, so that really secures the inside. Now I think they're looking at the outside.
Do you think the Jets could potentially trade back in the draft, even trade up, for example? I mean, do you think there's any possibility of that, or they're looking, you think they're going to stay at 9 and just take the best player available at that spot?
I think they're going to stay at 9 just because it's such a hard draft to trade back in, and that's just the perception now. It could be that once free agency gets rolling and teams get desperate, if the Jets don't land some of the guys that they want, then it becomes a matter of urgency. But the one thing I don't see Izek doing, and we haven't spent a whole lot of time with him, but this is just kind of my immediate read, is the one thing I don't see him doing is sacrificing any draft picks with this team so far, especially because, like we talked about earlier, the cap gets flat in the next couple of years, so it's going to be harder to kind of give these bigger money guaranteed contracts out. So, I mean, they're going to need cheap players for quite some time. It's not going to be just this year or next year. I mean, it's going to be the next 2, 3, 4 years. So I think, really, I mean, when he said the draft is a lifeline, I think he was pretty serious about that.
Yeah, speaking of free agency, Conor, again, this is Conor ORR. Guys, follow him on Twitter at Conor, 1N, and Frank's going to ask you about that later. Conor, TORR on Twitter. Definitely give him a follow from New York Star Ledger. He does a great job. He's really, ever since Jenny had left, and we had Jenny on earlier in the year, Conor, and she raves about your work, and obviously all the Jet fans really have too. You were the first beat reporter, like official beat reporter, next in line for our Twitter awards, and you had my vote. I can definitely give you that. But
oh no, he's good, man.
Oh,
just listening to him, I mean, I could talk football with this guy for a couple hours, man. Then I gotta go get some food after that. But yeah,
Conor, I want to get your opinion on what's going on with this quarterback situation. You saw names today like a David Garrard working out, and I saw your tweet earlier. You had Brady Quinn. I saw rumors about Kevin Cobb and Matt Moore. Where do you think they go? I know they don't want to spend a lot of money there, but they do want to bring in some competition for Sanchez, obviously.
Yeah, I think right now they're just kind of taking their time with Garrard. I think there's definitely some mutual interest, and from what I've heard at least, Garrard is really treating this like the one opportunity that he wants, and I think he really wants to be a starter again, and I think he was close last year before he kind of got banged up in camp a little bit. So I could definitely see that happening. As far as Quinn, it's tough to tell if they already invest in Garrard and you got Sanchez and you got McElroy and Sims already on the roster, and then they're probably going to cut Tebow, but you never know with this team. I mean, there could always be something coming up, but I mean that's what I see happening right now at least. They really put Garrard through the ringer. I think somebody that was at the workout yesterday told me that everyone kind of left around 2 a.m. and so I mean they were really there for a long time and just putting them through the physical. They're really kind of doing their due diligence. So I don't think they would do that if they weren't interested. And it sort of falls in line with what Idzik's saying. It's going to be competition all the way. And,
Good.
And just looking at his stats, I mean, he would fit well in a morning week system. He's a high completion percentage guy. He completes the medium range passes, and that's what morning week needs to kind of make that offense roll. So I mean, it makes sense if he can stay healthy. I definitely think it makes sense.
But Conor, to play a little devil's advocate with you mentioned names like David Garrard hasn't played a snap since 2002. Brady Quinn, a career backup. Matt Moore couldn't beat out Ryan Tannehill for a job. Kevin Cobb can't stay healthy. Is this really the competitive competition that Idzik was talking about to bring in for Sanchez? Is that really a competition?
Well, it's kind of the case of what else are you gonna do at this point?
Right.
It's tough. I mean, this is a really tough free agent market, and then you immediately saw the teams that would even have a viable second option kind of snap them up pretty quickly. Vic wasn't on the market for, even though he was still there, but I mean, they kind of made sure to take care of his situation.
Right.
Alex Smith was dealt with pretty quickly. Tavares Jackson, even in Buffalo, who a lot of people just thought might be a viable option just because Idzik was familiar with him. But I mean, even the Bills snapped him up early, and he's going to be in competition. And if you don't have one of those premier quarterbacks, this is just a bad year. It really is. There's nothing exciting coming up through the draft right now, and I mean that's just kind of where you're at right now. And so I think fans aren't gonna love the options going into camp. I mean, I can guarantee that there's really not going to be a sexy choice, and whether that's Sanchez, Brady Quinn, and David Garrard and Greg McElroy. I mean, really, you're just going to have to, like Idzik said, kind of trust the fact that competition will kind of bring the best to the top, and you see where you go from there. I mean, I think the next couple of years there'll be some decent quarterback classes coming up, but you never know. I mean, these guys kind of rise and fall too, so that's tough to tell.
All right, let's Conor. We'll wrap it up with a quick lightning round here. We'll have some fun here. It's more quick questions and a quick answer, and then we'll let you go. Again, Conor Orr from the Newark Star Ledger, guys. Give him a shout and give him a follow on Twitter. I'm going to start it off and
put 60 seconds on the clock here.
Yeah, let's go. Put 60 seconds. Wes is going to count it down. I'll start it off, and this probably comes as a shock to nobody, but Braylon Edwards, is he coming back?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. I don't want to waste time, but, I mean, I like him for the money. It's just it kind of depends on how he's going to fit into the morning wake system. My gut says no, but I really did think he played well at the end of last year.
I just cried. All right, who's that?
All right, Conor, I don't want to make any enemies for you, but who's your favorite Jets beat writer?
Besides Bill Spano.
Who's my favorite Jets beat writer besides myself?
Yes, so yes, of course.
Oh, geez, that's a tough one. I'd probably have to say Rich because he's the Godfather. So,
The Godfather, that's great.
Ooh, trying to get that pay increase. I like it.
Who's up, Wes?
All right, what do you got here? How far does Syracuse basketball go in March Madness? You're at 45 seconds. Go.
Oh, the same that they do every year. They lose in the Sweet 16 every year. That one's easy. I'll put my mortgage on that. That's easy.
All right, Conor, why did your parents give you a name Conor with only one N? What's up with that?
Why did they name me Conor with one N?
Yeah.
It's actually this. I could take up a long time on this, but it's from a book. We're 100% Irish. It's from a book called Trinity, and so he's like the main character. My dad was really into it before I was born, so that's why it's one N instead of two. That's how he spelled it.
All
right.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
All right. Obviously, the 40's a big thing at the combine. What'd you clock in at? What was your 40 time?
Oh my God! In high school, I think I might have run like a 5.23. I mean, that is fast. You know,
you
I told somebody that, and
you can't
he
weigh
said,
over
when did you
175
hit the
pounds.
trailer?
You're running a 5.7. Would you say a 5 what?
I think I ran like a 5.23, but I was an
5.23.
offensive lineman, so that was not awful, but not fantastic.
It's like Sean Green. It's all good. We've seen it for a while now. It's fine.
All right, Conor, you're a Scranton, Pennsylvania native, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a favorite moment from The Office?
Do I have a favorite moment from The Office? Let me think. When Dwight makes fun of the dental hygienist from Carbondale, I got a big kick out of that. Like, he made fun of like the way the Carbondale women are. I got a kick out of that because that's where my mom's from. Like, so right outside of Scranton and Carbondale. So
Nice.
that was a funny joke in our house.
There you go.
All right, I'm taking the last one, guys, and then we'll let Conor go. Who's the starter week 1?
Mark Sanchez.
Definitive answer.
No.
God, that's terrible.
Come
what a
on, man.
horrible way to end it, Conor. But anyway,
Couldn't have said two words, man.
we really appreciate you coming on, dude. And we definitely want to have you back as the off season starts and kicks off, and hopefully you can give us some good nuggets about what's going on.
Anytime, guys. You know where to find me.
Absolutely.
All
Take
right,
care,
thanks,
bud.
Conor.
Thanks, Con.
All right. See you guys.
All right, guys, we're going to go to break. We'll come back and we'll get into a little quarterback situation. Who is going to be the Jets quarterback in 2013? Is he on the roster? Is he not? Who's it going to be? But for now, we'll go to break. We'll come back. Send us off, Frank.
All right, peeps. You know the usual deal. Coffee, American coffee in particular, is getting out of style. Get in style. Start drinking espresso. It's the way to go. You don't crash. You get a little buzz. It's the new, it's a new thing on the block. Everyone's drinking it. No, I'm just kidding. But if you want to check out a great espresso company, go online. You can check them out. They're called Essay. That's ESSE Cafe. That's CAFFE. Yes, I did make that graphic, and I love it. It's the best graphic in the world. I think I'm drinking it.
Nice.
No, but definitely check them out. If you want to buy Cafe Essay, you can go to Italy in the Manhattan area, and you could purchase a package of espresso. So definitely check them out, and we want to give them a shout out as always. They've been with us from day one, so we really love them out there in Essay Cafe land.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to give a shout out to Frank, as always, to Nicole Esther. She's a sales associate with Remax Country Realty, and of course, a diehard Jet fan. Nicole's business is built on the promise of exceptional customer service. So whether you're selling your home or searching for that special place to call your own, you deserve to work with someone you trust and someone who has your best interest in mind. That would be Nicole, of course. If you're interested in selling a family home, Nicole has a proven marketing plan to provide the maximum amount of exposure for your home. So contact Nicole with your needs and let her get you started today on your next real estate sale or purchase. Call 845-590-7959. Log on to NicoleEsther.com. That's NicoleEsther. Or send her a tweet at NJRealtorNick, and let's go Jets. All right, guys. We'll get back into it, and we're going to have to talk about, of course, the 2013 starting quarterback. And as you heard from Conor Orr, who was just on and who hung up with us, his last lightning round question was starter week 1. It's Mark Sanchez. So, Wesley, I'm going to let you take it. Is the Jets' 2013 starting quarterback on the roster currently today, March 1st, 2013?
Well, I feel like Conor kind of stole a little bit of my thunder here. I was going to come in with like a nice emphatic yes, and it is Mark Sanchez, but he took it away from me. So it is what it is. But he is absolutely right. I am absolutely right. It's going to be Mark Sanchez. There's no question about it. If you look at their contractual financial constraints that they have with him, bringing in another very expensive or signing a very expensive other quarterback is going to make it very tough. And as I asked Conor in that little bit of the interview that we had, the guys that they're bringing in aren't much of a competition for him. These are guys who are just, out of the league for 2 years, career backup pretty boys. Excuse me, Brady Quinn. Maybe he could start over Sanchez in like a male modeling Calvin Klein contest. Or so I've heard. Whatever. But whatever the case is.
Do you wear Calvin Klein undies, Wes, or no?
That is.
No, seriously, I want to know.
I'm
just wondering.
That's just for me to know.
He does.
Because he brings up Calvin Klein a lot, so I just want to ask him the question.
Imagine the
Ladies
Jets
want to know
kept
they can come
Tebow.
find me. They know where to find me. I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, I said imagine the Jets keep Tebow and sign Quinn. It'd be Tebow, Sanchez, and
that will be
Sanchez
hands down,
that would be
no
a
homo, the sexiest group of quarterbacks that have ever been comprised.
Absolutely.
With the lowest amount of wins.
Wow.
Well, isn't Sanchez the winner, and so is Tebow?
Right, yeah.
That's what they say. But anyway, so you think it's Sanchez, huh?
It's Sanchez, yeah. It's got to be Sanchez.
That's painful. What about you, Frank? I don't know.
It's not Sanchez. No, it's not. It just can't be. I don't want to put my mind around that. To start Mark Sanchez going into next season, you have to be completely dumb. You have to be an idiot as an owner, as a GM, as a head coach, as an offensive coordinator. The guy's awful. To start him is just dumb. I think Rex Ryan will wake up one morning and realize, what do I care about? Do I care about money or do I care about winning? Rex is a winner, in my opinion. He wants to win. So I don't think that he's going to allow Mark Sanchez and his inadequate play to play on this team. And you know what? I don't like the fact that it's like it's a foregone conclusion that we're gonna have that Mark Sanchez is starting. Why?
Yeah,
it's almost like fans want him to start. Don't support it, man. It's just gonna be another
the lesser of all evils.
It's gonna be another wasted year. The guy was good when we had top 5 in everything, best special teams unit, best defense, best running game, and the worst part of our team was always our passing game with Mark Sanchez. It wasn't even close. Don't support the guy, in my opinion. It's just another average to below average year.
Any guy you think you're going to replace him, or is it just a no to Sanchez right now?
It's not gonna be Mark Sanchez. It's just not. I don't care how much money we owe the guy. Rex will wake up and realize that he's not gonna go with that guy.
Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, to build off what Wes said, I think if you look at who they're going to, they're really looking into David Garrard and they're looking into Brady Quinn. It leads me to believe that they're not too serious about replacing this guy and they want to make it work with Mark Sanchez. So I believe it's going to be Sanchez on day one.
It's almost like bring them in to make it seem like there's a competition when there's really
not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The Illuminati.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
I'm gonna go positive.
The fans aren't gonna like it. Like Conor said, made a good point.
I'm going to go a little positive here, and I'm going to say it's not Sanchez. And I do have a guy who I really, for whatever reason, I get the weird feeling it's going to be Matt Moore. I think there's going to be a lot of interest on both sides because Matt Moore knows this is really one of the places where he can come and be that starter. Finally, I think he's in his 6th year now. He got a 2-year, $5 million contract with the Dolphins 2 years back. I think if you look to a contract like a Matt Flynn got last year, which was 3 years for $19.5, it's going to be nowhere near that because Matt Flynn is considered a horrible signing in the Seahawks were either thinking about cutting or trading him. He may even be on the market. I think if you go with Matt Moore with a deal, say a 3-year, $12 million with $6 guaranteed, pay him $2.5 this year, $3.5 next year, so the $6 guaranteed, and then you go into 2015. If he does the job in 2015, the cap is expected to go a little bit higher. That's what the rumors were saying. He'll be expected to make the $6 million if he's lived up and hit those incentives. You pay him, and he's your starter. Obviously, he's succeeded, and that's what you want at the end of the day. And if he doesn't, you can cut him because you wouldn't owe him any guaranteed money. So I think a deal like that for Matt Moore is something he would take, where you give him incentives. Say if you win the starting quarterback position, you get X amount of dollars. If you go to the Pro Bowl, you get X amount of dollars. I think that's something that Matt Moore would take. Again, I don't know where the market is going to go for him, but I don't see too many places, really going hard for a Matt Moore. I think Flynn would get more interest than a Moore on the market.
We would have to trade for Flynn though.
Yeah, that's it. Well, unless Seahawks are saying they're not. Well, the Seahawks are saying they're not going to cut him now, but obviously they're not going to go out and say, yeah, we're going to cut him. They're going to look to try and trade him, try and, pump him up as if they do like him and see what they can get for him. Kind of what the Jets are doing with Tebow now, saying they're not going to cut him, they're trying to trade him. But at the end of the day, if they don't get any bites on a trade, Flynn could be on the market too, and I think he'd go before Matt Moore would. To a team younger.
Another guy that comes to mind is Jason Campbell too, but I just feel like, I feel these guys when given some decisions that whether they could pick another team, I think, with Mark Sanchez still being here, I think a guy like Matt Moore or a guy like Jason Campbell is going to pick a different destination at the end of the day.
But
it's a bad vibe.
Can meet up and if they can agree on it. He is the best available quarterback out there. I think I'm in agreement with all of you guys.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty safe agreement.
Yeah.
That we're all on board with Matt Moore. Should it work out?
Higher upside's Flynn, but Matt Moore's more. You know what you're gonna get.
But you know,
You have to
contractually,
trade.
financially, on the field wise, I think he would be the best fit. I mean, if you look back a few years ago when he was on the Carolina Panthers, you know, Peter King picked them to win the Super Bowl with Matt Moore at quarterback. You know, so this guy, Peter King, pretty smart football.
I love
this guy,
Peter King, Monday morning quarterback.
And he's from Massachusetts, so you know you gotta know he knows what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, of course.
The thing is, though, if we bring in Matt Moore and he, let's say, doesn't win the starting job and we're paying him money, and Sanchez finds a way to, you know, wow everyone with the way he talks and looks and sounds.
Nothing with his play, right?
Yeah, nothing with his play. You know, Mark Sanchez, the guy who gets better when he's not playing football. Seriously.
But do you seriously think if the Jets pay Matt Moore and they have a fair competition, not like a competition
No, it
saying,
can't be
hey,
a
Mark,
fair
we love you,
competition. No,
we want you to start, but we're going to tell the fans and media we're having a competition. Do you think Matt Moore is going to lose a quarterback competition?
Well, if it's a fair competition, you never know. Matt Moore's not like the most flashy practice player.
He's a better player than Mark Sanchez.
But he's not the flashy practice player. As you saw, he lost to Tannehill. He got out. You know, he was out of Miami. I mean, the guy is more of a gamer. He likes to, you know, he's more of a guy on Sundays who plays better than he does during practice. Yeah. Sanchez is pretty much the opposite. Sanchez throws a nice ball in practice when there's no pressure in his face, but when it comes to Sundays, he's not as good, in my opinion. So I don't think, you know, if Matt Moore comes in, I don't want it to be a fair competition. I don't. I want Matt Moore to come in and say, the job's yours to lose. Like, you're the starter, not like a fair competition, because then I think we could end up with Sanchez again. I think
the Jets are, I'm going to kind of be positive again. I think they're being coy with the way they're going about the quarterback competition. Like they're saying that, and we tweeted before that apparently the Jets and Brady Quinn have worked on a contract already. Those details we're getting out, and when free agency does open up, he will sign. It doesn't mean that they're going to sign and this guy's going to be on the roster. You can bring these guys into camp and you can cut a Gerard. They're going to probably sign him to a one-year deal.
Don't forget
I think they're going to have interest in Matt Moore, and they will have a little bit of wiggle room with the cap. Now they're about 8 and change under. They will restructure. You have to expect they're going to restructure something. I think they are being coy, and they're going to be interested in the Matt Moore.
Another sneaky name is you just reminded me is Drew Stanton. I mean, we brought him in and then cut him in what, August, July?
With Tebow.
Also, you know, so you have that, and I also like Derek Anderson. Believe it or not, I like it. I like the guys that flash and showed, you know, going back to 2007 or 2008, I believe, with Braylon Edwards. Put up some big numbers, so you know he's capable of doing it. So
you know what,
he's a big guy too.
You know
Derek
what
Anderson.
Yeah, totally. But you know what else this brings up is, if we're going to bring in a quarterback like Matt Moore and we're going to have to pay the guy, you know, we have to pay players now. We have to pay Landry. We have to pay a new quarterback. We're going to have to maybe pay Revis. I mean, we have some money we have to pay. Thank God the cap went up because it's going to help us. But again, when the cap helps you, it also helps other teams also. So, you know, you're playing against other people at the end of the day. Yeah. So it just brings up a good point, because you know, if we're bringing in Matt Moore and we're bringing in a lot of pieces from free agency, then it makes me think that we're going to get rid of Revis. And I don't know at this point what's going to happen with that, but it brings up an interesting conversation, you know.
Well, let's have that conversation. Let's have a Revis conversation.
Oh, I would love to.
Let's say we have to trade Revis, right? Well, we'll leave it open for Bill because he's very emotional about this.
Yeah, Bill's like moving up and down now.
Yeah.
He's like rolling with his mic.
You know, I saw it coming when you started talking about it, Frank, and I was like, I started to tear up. I don't want to do this.
Man,
well, the Niners have been the hot team in the media linked to Revis, whether or not whether there's anything with any smoke to the fire. But they've been the rumor team with having 12 picks now and should have 15 after the comp picks come in. Reports are that the Niners aren't interested, and now the Jets are looking to trade Revis. So in a perfect world, guys, let's put a trade together. We'll have some fun. We'll play Madden GM here. But be a little more realistic, work the cap in and what makes sense. Wes, say the Jets had to trade Revis. What's a trade you would accept, and with who?
The team that made a lot of noise today, dumping a lot of salary, is the Atlanta Falcons. All right, they are now currently $23 million under the cap in 2013. And I can't imagine these numbers are entirely accurate, but we got this from Spotrac.com. They were $50 million under the cap in 2014 as well. So moving ahead, they have a lot of money to work with. And also, it's also reported that they're not going to be using their franchise tag on either safety William Moore or cornerback Brent Grimes. So they have to address their cornerback issue, their defensive backfield issue. So I think see that as a perfect trade partner to have. You trade Atlanta's first and second pick, which is 30th and 58th overall, and a 2014 conditional mid-round pick, so to speak, depending on if they go to the Super Bowl, if they go to the NFC Championship game, whatever you want to throw in there. You get that, then you're looking at 4 picks in the top 60. That's a great way
and
to
Revis
start your
always
team and
rocks that
rebuild
Falcon
everything.
hat too. You ever see
sorry?
that? Revis is always wearing Falcon hats.
Yeah, he is. It's funny. And Geiger has
It's
the
just funny that you said that.
and Geiger has the Falcon sneakers. You know.
Yeah,
They roll around together.
What about you, Frank? What's your trade?
Listen, man. You know my trade. My trade's crazy. I have a crazy trade. I'm about to throw it out there. This is what I would do. I'm a huge Geno Smith fan, advocate, whatever you want to call it. I think he's going to be great in the NFL. I think he's going to make people forget about Cam Newton. What I would do is this: since the Kansas City Chiefs have reportedly been, been confirmed that they're going to bring in, Alex Smith. And so they're not going to go after Geno Smith with the number 1 pick because Alex Smith's the quarterback. I would call the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are over $28.5 million under the cap now. I would say, hey, your defense sucked last year. You guys were 30th in the league. Take Darrelle Revis. Take our 9th pick, too. I know this sounds nuts, but this is how much I value Geno Smith. I would shoot up at 2, draft Geno Smith. Now, everyone wants to bring up the point that you have to pay a quarterback. Well, remember, last year RG3 signed a contract as a number 2 pick, 4 years, $21 million. You take the 9th pick, which was a guy like Luke Kuechly, it's 4 years, $12.5 million. That's only per year. That's only a $2 million a year difference for a guy like Geno Smith, who I think is going to be a great quarterback. I think he has everything you want to look for in a quarterback. I would really move up because there are reports that at 3, Oakland wants Geno Smith. I don't think Geno's going to be there at 9. We need a quarterback. I don't want to wait another year. Bring in Geno Smith. Tell Mark Sanchez to hang out on the bench with his clipboard for a year. Let's start building for the future. He's a West Coast quarterback. Geno Smith is a West Coast quarterback. He's a quick release, drops back, likes a 3-step drop, plays in the shotgun, and he ran a 4.58, which nobody thought. It's a no-brainer to me. Jump up, utilize the cap situation that we've gained with $3 million extra. Go up and get Geno Smith, and then maybe ask Jacksonville for maybe a 3rd rounder. So do Revis and the 9th to move up to 2 and get a 3rd rounder, and that's what I would do because I think quarterback's hurting us. I don't think we need to rebuild. I think it's a quarterback issue on this team.
Bill?
Well,
tough to follow that.
Guys, I'm not playing this game with you guys, as you know, as we alluded to. I will, however, entertain a trade for Antonio Cromartie.
Ooh.
Okay? I will do that.
up.
I understand the need to free up some cap space and the strength at cornerback what we have, so I will entertain a Cromartie trade. It goes without saying that he's gonna kind of garner the same interest as an injured Revis would anyway. So I believe, and also as you go along in the offseason, you're going to see that, and you're hearing it now. Oh, compensation for Revis is slipping. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to give up as much. The contract, yada yada yada. So I will entertain a trade for Cromartie. I'll call San Francisco. San Francisco needs a corner. I'll take that number 2 they just got, and I'll take a conditional 4th. Yeah. And I'm not asking for much. I'll entertain it. I'll take the cap space, and I'll hang on to my Hall of Fame cornerback in Darrelle Revis.
That's interesting. I think I'd do that too. But anyway, just to play the game since Bill doesn't want to play because I think he cries when he thinks about trading Revis.
I played it kind of.
Yeah. What I would do is it involves trading our 1st-round pick too, but it's Revis and our 1st-round pick being 9 to the Eagles for their 1st-round pick at 4. So you move up 5 slots. Their 2nd-round pick is a 35th overall, very early 2nd-round pick, and a conditional 2014 2nd-round pick that could be a 1st if Revis hits all the incentives, starts every game, has X amount of interceptions, makes the Pro Bowl. If those incentives kick and he makes the Pro Bowl and all that stuff, it becomes a 1st-round pick. So you do get a 1st-round pick in return, but it would be next year, which Conor was saying it wouldn't be. Probably he doesn't think until next year. But I was just playing the game, and it would be Nick Foles, who's not making anything. So you do kind of get a quarterback there. You move up 5 slots, you pick up a 2nd-round pick, and you get a pick next year. So the Eagles aren't giving up a ton. They're not giving up that early 1st round this year because you're moving back, you're staying at 9. They're 33.5 million under the cap right now, and if they cut Namdi, which they probably would if they acquire Revis, they save I think another $6 million. So they're still under the cap to have plenty of money to sign Revis. The Jets get that cheap quarterback, young guy who's familiar with the morning wave offense. This year he's only making $600,000. Next year it goes to $700,000, and then close to $800,000 in 2015. So they're not paying a ton for Foles, who makes a ton of sense to come in here, a young guy. You get a first-round pick, and Revis gets his contract with the Eagles, and he stays kind of on the East Coast. So, I mean, to me that makes a little sense. I'm not crazy about Foles, but I think back in a morning wave offense, which he's familiar with, could make sense here.
We have breaking news at Flight 5.
Oh, da-da-da.
So it was actually breaking news before. I just didn't bring it up. We actually have a picture of Nick Spano, your host, with Mark Sanchez at the New York Jets flight crew premiere get-together. We have it. It was just sent to us. We could have gave it to you before, but we want to do it at the end of the show. I don't know if it's going to pop up. If it doesn't, we're going to post it on our Twitter account. But yes, it's a teaser. Check it out, because as of today, it's the early bird registration for the New York Jets flight crew. Check them out. They all hit me up, all the women on the flight crew. They've been, I've been hitting them up on the text, as they say.
Nice.
So, we're about to get together.
Did they hit you with restraining orders?
No.
Almost.
Yeah.
I have a couple, but I've been working my way out of them.
They're just pieces of paper anyway,
Dude,
right?
public defenders, it's the way to go. Yeah. Forget about hiring a lawyer. It's a waste of money. Just go with the public defender. But
we're out of time, guys.
We're going to post a picture. But yeah, we are out of time.
I deleted it so that couldn't cut it out. I didn't want to be seen hanging out with Sanchez. I can't. I can't talk bad about him.
You love
Nick,
Sanchez.
I can't do that.
Nick, what do you think of Sanchez?
Nick shut it down.
Are you the wingman, or is he your wingman? Let's be honest here.
I'm his wingman.
Yeah.
He gets a little nervous. When the pressure's on Sanchez, he gets nervous. You know that.
You fell off, though, man.
Has he ever butt fumbled a girl before?
No, Nick has honestly fell off. Since Nick has been wifed up, okay? You haven't been out there with me out in the on the battlefields of White Plains / New York City, and I've been
battlefield.
I've been losing a little respect for you, bro. I gotta say.
What are you gonna do? She got me this really nice shirt, by the way. You guys all gave me compliments
Love that
about.
shirt.
Unbelievable.
Very nice.
All right, we're out of time, guys. We'll be back next week to do our free agency show. We may have a bit of information for you next week, too. Wes Flip 'em. We'll be back, Flight 5 Live, same time, same place.
Peace.